environmental impact assessment is an important tool for environmental management, and this environmental impact assessment is part of the National Environmental Policy Act of 1970. So if you look at the history of National Environmental Policy Act, the act was passed in the year 1970, but it has a detailed history in the sense that there was one committed US senator by name Henry Jackson. He was instrumental in bringing up this particular act in the United States. So it was 1955 was the year when Senator Henry Jackson he proposed this particular bill in the US Congress. But this bill was rejected in 1955 and subsequently in all the rest of the other Congresses. But ultimately it was passed in 1970. So the importance which the fellow senators have realized was the outcome of Rachel Carson's The Silent Springs book and the land ethic concept that was proposed by Aldo Leopold, the one of the naturalist and environmental conservationist. So these two publications have made the Senator Henry Jackson and all the fellow senators to accept this bill, and finally it was signed by then President Nixon in the US Congress in 1970, and the name of the bill was actually National Environmental Policy Act of 1970. So the importance of the provisions that the particular act has contained. Okay, so number one, the salient provision of this particular act is to to make the citizens to realize their their right to a healthy environment. So every citizen is having his or her own right to claim for a healthy environment, and it is a duty of the federal government to provide the facilities, the healthy atmosphere in the entire country. And the second provision is to form a council on environmental quality, and this council on environmental quality will collect the state of environment information across the entire country and then will pass the information to the President of the United States. So when this is the status, the third and fourth provisions have made a drastic change in the entire world. The sense that the third provision has called for the formation of a United Nations Environment Program, the UNEP, and under which the UNEP along with the United Nations organization UNO will convene a global environmental conference. So the UN subsequently formed this UNEP, and the headquarters of the UNEP was based in Nairobi, Kenya, and subsequently the UNEP started formulating strategies and making all these steps to convene a national global level environmental summit. And that's how the first Earth Summit was conducted in Stockholm in 1972, and subsequently the second Earth Summit. All these have paved the way for the environmental developmental activities across the. So simply this is called as prediction, defined as a kind of a prediction of the impacts of a proposed action. So it has a lot of other definitions like the scientific definitions, which forms the basis for making a detailed investigation of the scientific rationale behind the environmental changes that is going to take place in the entire developmental activity area, and so on and so forth. So that is how the entire environmental impact assessment started gaining its momentum, and it started being implemented in the entire United States. So basically this EIA is a systematic process of identifying the future consequences of the current action. So the whole exercise is so transparent and has its own lot of certainty in its own process and procedures, and it makes everyone to participate in the whole exercise, and it is so practicable and flexible, cost effective, and has a lot of accountability and credibility. So on the whole of environmental impact assessment is a very good exercise which will make the entire country so prosperous and will balance the equilibrium in the environment. Okay, so therefore this has become a kind of an exercise which was proposed in 1970 to the first summit, that every country should adhere and then to adapt this EIA process and then implement the whole exercise. So this is how the whole exercise of a National Environmental Policy Act incorporating the environmental impact assessment have started being implemented in almost all the countries across the globe.